Welcome back to America Right Now. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky is today demanding the release of a Ukrainian mayor who was allegedly captured by Russian forces. Video has now been released which allegedly shows the mayor of Melitopol, Roman Fedorov, being led away by armed forces. We have heard for weeks now that Russia intends on capturing or killing Ukrainian officials. We will continue to update this story throughout the day. Now, President Biden vowed to depoliticize the Department of Justice. This week marked Attorney General Merrick Garland's 1 year on the job. So has the Attorney General stayed independent? Let's ask Professor Alan Dershowitz, our legal legend and the host of the podcast, The Dersh Show. He's also the author of The Case for Colorblind Equality in an Age of Identity Politics. Welcome, Professor. Always good to see you.
Thank you.
So has Merrick Garland been used as an enforcer for the administration to advance a political agenda, or is the Department of Justice sort of focusing independently than the leadership of the Democratic Party? Are they operating independently of this White House?
Well, you're going to like the first part of my answer, not the second part. Garland should not be the Attorney General of the United States. He should be Mr. Justice Garland. He should be on the Supreme Court. His place on the Supreme Court was stolen, absolute theft, stolen by the Republican Party when he was nominated by Barack Obama. He should have been on the Supreme Court. He's not. He's now the Attorney General.
Right.
And I think he's doing a fair job. Of course, he's enforcing the government's policies on voting, on abortion rights, but not criminalizing and not politicizing the criminal process. He's allowed District Attorney or U.S. Attorney Durham to continue his investigation, which is mostly focusing on Democrats. He has not indicted, although there's been some pressure from radical Democrats to indict some lawyers and others who helped President Trump. Could he be doing a better job? Look, anybody can be doing a better job. But I do think that he has depoliticized the department to a greater degree than previously.
Professor, there's plenty of evidence to suggest that he is working to go even beyond his remit. Garland has adopted the president's race-baiting and inflammatory rhetoric, claiming our voting systems are racist. He's been accused of targeting parents who opposed CRT and COVID restrictions. He's pushed back against efforts to protect children from sex reassignment. There are a lot more examples of that. But how do you say that he's depoliticized it when we've got the memos between the White House and the Justice Department saying you got to go after these people because this is what our base wants, or this is.
Yeah, but
go ahead.
Doing it. They're not doing it. They're not going after these people. There's a big difference between enforcing the policy of the department. The government, the administration, the Democrats feel very differently about voting rights than Republicans do. And of course, it's the job of the Attorney General to enforce the policies of the administration, but to be independent when it comes to criminal justice. And I think he has been independent when it comes to criminal justice. Yes, the base of the Democratic Party would love to see Trump indicted and everybody else indicted. He hasn't done that. As far as going after the parents, that was a very ill-advised memorandum, and I criticized him for it. It should not have been done. But they haven't followed up on it. They haven't done anything to go after parents. Parents have a right, obviously, to protest what's going on in schools, but the administration also has the right to object to statutes that are being passed in states preventing teachers from teaching certain things. Look, I happen personally to agree that people shouldn't be teaching about sex to 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, and 10-year-olds. But we've become unfortunately very politicized, even over mandates regarding vaccines.
Look, and Professor, and unfortunately, I'm short on time, but we do have a very significant problem where the FBI and the Justice Department, particularly if you look at the polling data, are viewed with great distrust by conservatives and Republicans who make up a very big chunk of the country, right?
It's a good thing. Distrust of government and distrust of prosecutors is a good thing, but change from distrust to, he shouldn't be the Attorney General, something like that. We have to distinguish between policies, which the Attorney General is supposed to pursue, and prosecutions, which he must be independent on. And if he steps over the line of prosecution, then we ought to really, really complain about that, because that's not his job.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there. Professor Alan Dershowitz, thank you so much for being with us. Appreciate it.
Hey, I'm Rob Finnerty. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please join the conversation in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe, too. Hit the bell icon to be alerted to breaking news. And remember, there's a whole lot more on Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news network. Newsmax TV, where real news for real people.